Good day, I'm Tanya from South Africa, and this is my second episode. Welcome back to my subscribers, and to the newcomers, please make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can follow all the episodes. So today I'm going to give you a bit of background of the facts that we have that's written up regarding Paul Kruger and what happened to the Kruger millions. So let me give you the background on the days it all happened. When the British occupied Pretoria on June 5, 1900, Lord Alfred Milner established that gold and coins was missing from the gold mine, the SA Mint and the National Bank. Ernst Meyer, master of the Mint in 1900, was involved in the removal of the money and gold from Pretoria. On October 25, 1949, as a result of what Preller wrote, Meyer drew up a document in which the removal of the money and gold on June 4, 1900 is described. So this refers to the famous map that everyone knows about. In some coming episodes, we'll have a discussion about all the different maps, and I'll show you the details. In Meyer's version of the events, General Smith, who was state attorney at the time, was left behind in command at Pretoria, while the government headquarters moved quietly and almost unobserved to Mashadodorp. If you watched my first video, I gave you some evidence that this is actually a mistake, that the parliament was moved to Pietersburg, not Mashadodorp. So this is where everyone's hunt went wrong. On June 2nd, the British force were approaching Pretoria from the south. The mint was still in operation and as usual, was closed on Saturday, the 2nd of June. He was amazed that no preparations had been made for the removal of the gold. The British would enter Pretoria within the next few days, and Meyer reported this to Jules Perrin, head of the mint. Perrin's answer was that he had not received any instructions to remove the gold, and that they would have to submit to the authorities, whoever they might be. The British occupation was imminent. On the Sunday, the sound of cannon fire could be heard. And on Monday morning, June 4th, reports were received of fighting at 6 Mile Spruit. The staff at the mint started the day at the usual hour of 7 o'clock, and Perrin distributed the metal to the different departments for processing. Perrin and the office staff then went home to return at 9, while the technical staff continued working. During Perrin's absence, Meyer took the opportunity to warn the smelter and purifier not to proceed with the processing of gold, but to await the directions of the state attorney. Everyone at the mint was willing to cooperate, as they were also at a loss to understand Perrin's inexplicable behavior. Meyer proceeded to General Smith's home in Sunnyside and informed him of the situation. In shocked tones, he exclaimed, "What, has the gold not been taken away?" He told Meyer to return to the mint immediately and to await him there. Smith arrived at the mint just before 9, and after a few words to Perrin and Hugo, the National Bank manager at the time, Smith ordered the gold to be collected, weighed, recorded, and made ready for dispatch to the Pretoria station. The weighing and recording of the gold took time and consisted of gold bars, unprocessed gold, and approximately 100,000 Kruger pounds to the value of 750,000 euros. At 12 o'clock, all was in readiness and the gold loaded in the train's baggage compartment. Meyer and armed guards of between 4 and 8 men traveled in the passenger compartment. Thus, the last train under the flag of the Republic left Pretoria amidst the thunder of cannon fire, taking the precious freight to safety. So if you watch my first video, you will also see that I've referred to the trains, that there was actually 3 trains that left, and there was one whole train was full of the treasure. But we'll go into more details as we narrow down everything. The train arrived at Mashadodorp at 2 o'clock, where Kruger was residing. Here, Meyer assisted with the payment in gold to several claimants, and with the help of the auditors and treasury personnel, had a busy time. After Meyer left for the front on July 17, 1900 to join Max Tennyson's scouts, they were also called the Cavaliers, and there's some videos on YouTube about them as well. Commandant General Minder Noon, Chief Clerk to the Auditor General, took over from Meyer. Preller's story clearly indicates facts of events that happened that day. Something that has not been proved yet is a second train, which also left the same time, which was a diverted train to confuse the British troops, as I've mentioned before as well. The question remains, was the main stash with Meyer and the armed guards, or perhaps in the diverted train? We will find out in the coming episodes. Now let us look at Paul Kruger. I'm going to quickly give you some background of who Paul Kruger was as well. Stephanus Johannes Paulus Kruger, from Farm Buffelshoek district Steinsberg, also known as Oom Paul, was born in the Cape Colony from a family of Prussian descent. Paul Kruger's father, Casper Jan Hendrik Kruger, and his mother, Elsie Francina Stein, joined the Great Trek, and the young Paul went through all the hardships of the time. At the age of 15, he was recognized as a citizen, and when he was 17, he married and settled on his farm, Waterkloof near Rustenburg in the Transvaal. On one of his hunts, he accidentally dropped his own thumb. He became a strong supporter of the Reformed Church and was a lay preacher of that church until his death. He took part in several wars against the Black tribes, and in 1854 he showed extraordinary heroism by retrieving the body of Commandant Potgieter from the besieged mountain fortress of Chief Makapan. Paul Kruger participated in Potgieter's expedition against the Baperi chief Sekwati as an acting field cornet in 1846. In 1851, he became field cornet of his district. His duties included not only military organization and leadership, but also minor judicial and administrative matters. He also began to show an interest in politics in 1850. For example, he drafted a petition to the Volksraad and had it signed, objecting to the appointment of a military commander in peacetime. In the dispute that arose between Potgieter and Andries Pretorius, Kruger chose Pretoria's side because he believed that only Pretorius could bring about unity in the Transvaal. As a field cornet, he was part of the military council that instructed Pretorius to negotiate with the British on the recognition of Transvaal independence. In January 1852, he accompanied Pretorius to the meeting at Sand River, where the Sand River Convention between Britain and the Tracker Republic was signed. In 1853, the year in which his father died, Paul Kruger almost died himself when he came under the fire from his own accomplices during a skirmish with the Tswanas of Setsele. A year later, as commander of Rustenburg, he distinguished himself because of his bravery in the field against Mokopane and Mokopane when he found the body of slain commander-in-chief in the vicinity of the present Potgieter's, as referred above. And he had to carry him out of the mouth of Makapan's cave. In the Transvaal, he was called the bravest amongst the brave, and even beyond the borders of the country, he built a reputation as an experienced and fearless military leader. He was a prominent Boer resistance leader against British rule, and later on 30 December 1883 became the last president of South Africa's Republic. He was elected president 4 times, most recently in 1898. The Second War of Independence began on 11 October 1899. In October 1900, he left South Africa on the warship, the Gelderland, which was sent by Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands. His wife, Christina Kruger, was very ill at the time and could not accompany him. She died on July 20, 1901. Kruger went to Marseille, France, came and stayed for a while in the Netherlands. He moved to Clarence in Switzerland, where he died on 14 July 1904. He was buried on 16 December 1904 in the Church Street Cemetery, Pretoria. His previous home is now the Kruger House Museum. Okay, so this fact I got from other researchers, and as I mentioned, I just showed out some of the things that I do not agree with. So I've got some very exciting news. I found some in the National Archives of Pretoria. I discovered some documents that will lead to some evidence. I'm just going to quickly give you samples of some of these documents. So I'm planning a trip before month end to visit the museum and take some pictures, and then we can study this further. So an example is of the death sentence of Swarts in 1904. And as you all know, and as we will discuss further, Swarts was a key factor in some of the stories. Then also I found another one which is very interesting. Hidden treasure correspondence with South African constabulary regarding certain bar gold supposed to have been buried by the late government. Then there's another one. Let's see. I got some information on the railway company from that time, and as you all know, we have to research the trains. Then there's another one, for example, gold mining industry Transvaal, allegations against those in charge of mining operations in 1900. Yes, so that's going to be very interesting. And then there's another thing that I've discovered. I had a conversation with Adrian Snyman, who wrote the book Messenger of God from Sina van Rensburg, a prophet from God, a messenger from God. And then in that, there's some evidence that he also discovered that he never mentioned in his book, and he gave me permission to use this on my videos. So in some of the coming episodes, we'll be discussing a letter that he received from Paul Kruger, who was a very good friend of Sina van Rensburg, with some very, very specific information regarding where the treasure was hid. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.